with coverage you can count on. This is the Erie News NOWCAST.
Good Wednesday morning. I'm Mark Salday. Thanks for dumping on Facebook Live as we get you a check of some of the stories we are following here at Erie News Now. We begin with a live look at New York State, specifically Jamestown, New York, and Chautauqua County. The Empire State's actually ending its mask mandate as of this morning. New York City adopting the new CDC guidelines, as well as the rest of New York State for the fully vaccinated. Again, it all starts today. New York City's health commissioner, meantime, still recommending masks indoors for folks in the Big Apple. Dr. David Chokski says he still wears a mask indoors himself and will continue to do so, he says, for the foreseeable future. He and New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio said more New York City residents still need to be vaccinated to begin the most COVID restrictions lifted as of this Wednesday up in New York State. Also this morning, France reopening restaurants, museums, movie theaters, and other businesses on this Wednesday, all after a shutdown of more than 6 months. Yeah, France lifting certain coronavirus restrictions earlier today. Visitors who reserved slots were forming a line outside the Louvre. Parisians went out this morning enjoying the outdoors and cafe terraces all around Paris. The final phase of France's 3-stage reopening plan is set for June 30th. That's when all of the other restrictions there are expected to be lifted. Also new this morning, the New York State Attorney General's office says it is now pursuing a criminal investigation into the Trump Organization. That group is already under the focus of 2 investigations in New York, with the Manhattan DA's office's criminal probe and the Attorney General's civil one. Well, now those 2 offices are working together on that criminal portion of the investigation. At issue here is whether the Trump Organization used misleading information to get loans and potentially tax benefits. The DA is examining some documents in this one, including the former president's tax returns. Mr. Trump says the entire investigation is, in his words, politically motivated. Well, House lawmakers in Washington are now poised to vote on a 9/11 style commission to investigate the deadly January insurrection, that terrorist attack at the U.S. Capitol. This would be the first step towards creating an independent, bipartisan panel to investigate the siege and try to prevent it from happening again. But it's also got to get through the Senate. And getting to the bottom of it, apparently not something Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell wants. He says he's pushing the pause button on this legislation that would form this commission. And Democrats would need at least 10 Republican votes to pass the measure under the Senate's rules. In North Carolina, protests followed Tuesday's announcement that the North Carolina sheriff's deputies who fatally shot Andrew Brown Jr. there a few weeks back will not face criminal charges. The DA's office says those officers' actions were justified because they were confronting a suspect who had access to a potentially deadly weapon, his car. Brown's family says they want to see all of the available video of that incident, not just what authorities are willing to let the public see. They are now calling on the Justice Department to review this case. Well, back here at home, one of the biggest races on Tuesday's primary ballot also turned into one of the closest. That was the fight for the Democratic nomination for Erie County Executive, with all but one precinct's votes counted up. School board member Tyler Titus holding still a slim lead over Erie County Councilman Carl Anderson. That lead right now about 130 votes. And apparently there are still a number of mail-in votes to be counted. Of course, Erie News Now will be keeping our eyes on that one. On the Republican side, a much clearer result in that Erie County execs race this morning. Veteran Brenton Davis scoring a win over challenger Sean Robleski. The current county executive, Kathy Dahlkemper, decided not to run for re-election. And the race for mayor turned into a landslide yesterday. Incumbent Democrat Joe Schember rolling to that nomination for a second term in office. A big win in the Democratic primary over challengers Tom Spago and Sidney Zimmerman. And with no Republicans running, at least not yet, in the fall, Tuesday's win pretty much seals up that second term for Joe Schember. Down in Crawford County, looks like Meadville's getting a new mayor. Businesswoman Jamie Kinder with a big lead over incumbent H. Leroy Stearns, with all of the traditionally cast votes added up, but they still need to count any mail-in votes. But again, from these vote totals, it appears Kinder is your winner in that Meadville mayor's race this morning. And a small group of voters caused a pretty big stir yesterday when they actually took their ballots home rather than getting scanned and counted. Elections officials say it actually happened at 2 polling places, and they're blaming it all on one of the poll workers. County leaders say 9 voters using the ballot marking device at Jefferson Elementary School in Erie left without getting their ballots scanned. They took them home instead. It was a similar situation at the Girard United Methodist Church, impacting about 24 ballots there.
In either case, the poll worker involved felt somehow that the voter was able to take a receipt of sorts with them. In this case, a ballot that was produced by our marking device.
So yeah, the clerk of elections now wants any voters who may still have that ballot with them at home to bring it down to the courthouse so it can be officially counted. And you can get a look at all of the other election results. Certainly a lot of races on the ballots across Pennsylvania. You can get it all by heading to erienewsnow.com. And we're keeping more of that same great weather that voters got to enjoy yesterday, David.
Temperatures getting a little bit hotter for today. We will be getting into the 80s, and we're certainly working our way there as we check out Presque Isle Bay. A fair amount of sunshine out there. Temperatures right now, it is sunny and a 75 here in Erie. We got 72 down into Meadville, lower 70s back into Warren, as well as Bradford. 69 in Jamestown. Winds pretty light overall. We'll have a light lake breeze during the afternoon, but we are certainly getting into the 80s, and we're just 5 degrees away from that. As we check out our Presque Isle cam, you can see the ravine flyer there and the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. Of course, it's all enveloped by green as the leaves continue to come on in, and the pollen is really swirling through this very dry air. We'll notice some high clouds. That's really all we have off towards the west. High pressure still in place across the region, keeping the rain showers farther to the west and a little bit farther to the north. But eventually we'll get in on some rain because we could certainly use it for gardeners and just for farmers in a general. We'll start to see some of that rain as we get later on in that 7-day futurecast for today. Just some of those high clouds will continue to move on in. No rain expected. There is that chance as we get the lake breeze tomorrow. There's the potential for an isolated shower or storm later in the afternoon, but not showing up too well on Futurecast. But that's basically how high our rain chances will be going as we look at least over the next couple of days. We are dealing with those very dry conditions overall. And the fire danger a bit higher for Warren, McKean, Elk, and Forest counties. So that just means that if you are doing any burning, maybe having a little bonfire, just be extra careful as you do that. All right, for today, we are expecting temperatures to work their way up into the 80s, a light lake breeze during the afternoon, feeling decent out there on Presque Isle between the shade and that light wind. Temperatures will be maybe a little bit cooler there compared to some inland locations. You can see lower 80s into Crawford County, a hot day overall. Sunscreen, stay hydrated. You know those summertime tips that we're going to have to adjust to because we have more of this kind of weather in that 7-day. I'll get to that in just a second.
All right, thank you, David. Well, we just saw our first decent-sized outdoor concert, at least in this area for some time. Happened over the weekend down at Port Farms in Waterford. Well, now we are learning that one of the biggest outdoor music events across the country of all time, making a comeback this summer. Organizers of Lollapalooza say that multi-band festival is going to return to Chicago's Grant Park, and not just in a small way, coming back at full capacity. They say festival goers, though, will be required to either have a negative COVID-19 test or be fully vaccinated. No word yet on how they're going to make festival goers prove that is the case, but Lollapalooza is set to make its return run July 29th to August 1st. And finally, also out of Illinois, a man driving a Tesla in that state cited for inattentive driving after a deputy apparently said he looked to be sleeping behind the wheel after putting on his lights and siren to initiate that traffic stop. This driver went 2 more miles before pulling over. The 38-year-old denied falling asleep, even though the vehicle did have autopilot capability. Tesla says drivers need to keep their hands on those steering wheels at all times. Good advice, even if it's an allegedly driverless vehicle, I suppose. All right, David, we are driving our way up into the 80s by this afternoon, it looks like.
Yeah, we certainly are. And the thing about advancing technology, it doesn't mean that people are always advancing along with it. So, yeah, we have convertible weather for today. Make sure you have both hands on the steering wheel as we drive ahead in this forecast. Temperatures lower 80s Wednesday, Thursday into Friday. An isolated shot at an afternoon shower on Thursday, but high pressure begins to wear down just a little bit, and that's going to allow some systems to maybe come on in from the northwest, and it's still very warm out there. We have middle and upper 70s, but we could certainly use that extra drink. At least the lawn may need that as we go later on in the weekend and then into next week. Obviously, with these very dry conditions, the water hose may be going a little bit more in your water bill, along with your energy bill as you flip on the AC, may be going up over the next couple of days. But yeah, we have flipped right on into summertime.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good, David. We've got another half hour's worth of news coming your way at noon on WSEE. And get out there and enjoy today. What are you doing watching Facebook Live? We'll be back on the air at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning for Erie News Now Sunrise, and we'll see you then.